If you're unfamiliar, this is Christopher Hitchens. He debated the Catholic Church forever ago. I think this is probably 2006. That's my best guess. I'm not exactly sure. But he debated the Catholic Church and a British MP, a member of Parliament, the equivalent of a member of the House of Representatives, on whether or not the Catholic Church is a force for good. It was actually a fascinating debate and gave a lot of insight into some of the problems that the Catholic Church has not only let happen, but perpetrated. So I wanted to give it a listen and see what they had to say for themselves. This is not part one. If you haven't seen the other, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. If you want to see which part this is, it should be in the title. So let's give this a listen. Oh, and while we do, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild, too. I'm just kind of going around getting Koroks and doing whatever, so...
Archbishop, of which current Roman Catholic policy are you most ashamed?
Current Catholic policy are you most ashamed of?
I'll repeat it. Okay, let's stick with the Archbishop on that. So, Archbishop, which current Catholic policy, this question is, are you most ashamed of?
I don't know whether you're serious in that question or you just want to provoke, because if all our Catholic policies are not just dreamt overnight by the Pope or anybody.
Yeah, they are. They're just dreamt up overnight, yes. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses policies, they're just dreamt up overnight by the governing body, just like that. Like, you sit here and pretend that you have some special line to God. Where was that special line to God when you were committing the Crusades? You just dreamt these policies up overnight. You did. Sorry. Like everyone knows, inherently murder is wrong, and so in societies there's naturally a system of law without people having to write it down. Yeah, sure. I mean... I think in society today we have that natural law, but if we started from zero, like we took 150 babies who were self-sufficient, they didn't need to be cared for, hypothetically, age 1 month old, and we took 150 of them and put them in the woods alone, and they grew up in the woods alone, with absolutely no connection to current modern day society. Do I believe that they would have a natural rule about murder or whatever? No, I don't believe so. I think that is built upon a whole system that we have spent, millennia building up. Quick interjection. I won't take long. I just wanted to tell you guys, YouTube's algorithm operates off of a few factors. Watch time, whether or not you subscribe, and whether or not you like something. So if you really want to help my channel, I would appreciate it if you guys watch the video to the end. If you don't watch it to the end, just watch a little bit longer than you would have otherwise. I would appreciate that very much. All right, let's get back to the video. I think our current understanding of morality is built on what we have experienced over generation after generation after generation. There is no moral law that's written on anyone's heart. I don't believe, no. Inherent to human nature as opposed to written law. No, I don't think so. In my opinion, I don't believe so. Now, we are conditioned to be averse to certain things. Like, human beings are not supposed to kill other human beings. You may not have a problem with that. Conceptually, like those 150 babies who grew up in the middle of the woods and had absolutely no connection to human society, they may be perfectly willing to commit a murder and it means nothing to them, but they will quickly find that human beings aren't supposed to kill other human beings, and it really fucks your head up when that happens. The Nazis found that out the hard way when they were going around taking out Jews. They found, Hitler found, really, that a certain percentage of his force, his fighting force, who was charged with going around taking people out, started behaving very oddly, very strangely, unusually, and they were getting drunk all the time, and they jumped at loud pops and things like that. They had developed PTSD, not because they didn't believe in the cause. They absolutely did, some of these people. They hated Jews more than anybody in some cases, and were doing this job willingly, happily. But human beings are not made to kill other human beings. It's haunting to us, even if it's something that, you know, they believe in. It's something that's really, really hard to deal with. And that's why Hitler created the death camps the way that he did, and staffed them with people who very obviously had some form of sociopathy or psychopathy, who had no emotions the way that many people had, and were perfectly okay with just killing wantonly, and suffered no ill effects from it. So the people ultimately who staffed these death camps in World War II, the guards and, you know, the scientists and the people who were actually doing the killing and everything, these people all had some type of sociopathy, in my opinion, to be able to do something like that. The people who had normal human emotions couldn't handle it. No matter how much they hated the Jews, they could not deal with that. So, anyway, that's my take on the question. Thank you for posing that. It was interesting. Love listening to you while working. Here's for the vacation fund. Thank you so much, Mitch53. I appreciate that. That is awesome. Thanks for your answer. Oh, yeah, of course. It's a pretty interesting question. Hopefully it gave some insight.
If it is a Catholic policy, it is reasonable. It is based on our traditions and scriptures, and there's none about which I'm ashamed.
Wow. If it's a Catholic policy, it is reasonable, and I am not ashamed of it. That's fascinating. That's a really interesting answer that he just gave, isn't it? This is basically him saying the Catholic Church can do no wrong. The Catholic Church is currently doing nothing wrong. There's nothing that I have a complaint about.
If that is the answer to your question.
Okay, and the other question about, I think the Vatican is worth something like, is it $2.5 billion it has?
Is that all? Really? I cannot believe that that's all it has.
Invests it all over the place and so on. Do you need all that money? Was that question up there, all the finery and all the rest of it?
I was trying to listen. I couldn't quite get.
His question was, you talked about the billions in aid that goes to Africa, dispensed by Catholic organizations one way or another, but what about the wealth of the Vatican itself? Do you need all that money?
If it means that they should carry St. Peter's Basilica to Africa, that's not the answer. And I don't know what billions of that he says the Vatican has.
You don't? Really? You don't know what billions the Vatican has? Are you really that in the dark, or are you pretending to be in the dark? Because the Vatican famously has obscene amounts of wealth, obscene amounts, and stuff that they stole from people generations ago, too. I mean, stuff that they pillaged from people from different countries that they had no right to. It's in the Vatican vaults right now.
The billions of this world, I think, are not in the Vatican. We know where they are, and they are not coming to Africa. On the contrary, Africa has been sucked dry by those people, those multinationals. They are the ones who should be bringing our money back to us. I think we are...
Right. Because the people who become Catholic, who they proselytize to in Africa, are not tithing. They are not giving a percentage of what money they make to the Catholic Church, right? Is that right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? So they aren't being sucked dry by the Catholic Church, right?
We are targeting the wrong place. I come from Africa, and the funds that come from church agencies for us are very important. We know that normally in most of those our countries, we should not even be looking up to people to help us. We should be helping ourselves, and we are working towards that.
And Widdecombe, one specific question to you. Why not women priests in the Catholic Church?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Well, no, the specific question was, why is it not all right for a woman to be a priest, but it is for a woman to be an MP? That was the specific question.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, she's right.
And I have to say to you, I mean, that really does betray a vast ignorance.
Well, that's why he asked. Really? That's why he wants to know. Tell us. Sure, vast ignorance. Great, fine. Tell us. Why is it okay for you to do what you're doing while continuing to, believe in the Catholic faith? Give us an answer. If it's so stupid and easy to understand, God, you're so dumb. Well, correct us then. Tell us why. By the way, somebody said my accent comes out when I get angry. Which accent? I'm curious. What accent do I have? Because I feel like I have a northeastern accent to some degree. I don't know if I have a West Virginian accent or not. So yeah, what accent do I have exactly that you can hear coming through? Oh shit, I didn't even see those guys. So she's saying that it betrays a vast ignorance. Well, okay, insult me, I guess, but at least tell me why I'm wrong, right?
A member of Parliament, male or female, does not stand in persona Christi at the point of consecration.
It doesn't matter. You are in a position of authority over men. You have more sway, more power than a man. That's the problem. That's the point here. And the Bible specifically says that's against the rules, doesn't it?
The church is not about careers. The church is about vocations and about theology. And I do not believe it possible for a woman at the point of consecration. Woman's ministry is different. This is specific to the priesthood and probably won't be understood by a lot of the people who don't understand the theology of the priesthood. But
you're just too stupid. You're just too stupid to understand. That's really the answer here. You're an idiot. That's all. Fine, call me an idiot, but just give me the answer if I'm so stupid and it's so simple and straightforward.
But I don't believe that it is any more possible for a woman to represent Christ at the point of consecration than for a man to be the Virgin Mary.
Okay, thanks. Lots of...
That didn't give me an answer at all. What the hell are you talking about right now? That was worthless to me.
Very good.
Lots of hands up, and I really do want to go around everybody. So, panel, if you could keep your responses to the point as much as you can. Up there, please.
Question to Anne and the Archbishop. How can the Church possibly sustain and justify taking money from the impoverished in Mexico, in Latin America, in Africa?
Yes, exactly. How can you justify taking money from them?
And at the same time suggesting that you're a force for good?
Absolutely, dude. I couldn't have said it better myself. How can you take money from the poorest people on planet Earth and then claim that you're a force for good? Don't tell me you give a bunch of money to them so it's kind of equaling out. Don't take money from them at all. Okay? You're not a force for good. Period.
I didn't quite hear that question. Okay, thanks.
Well, question to Stephen Fry. I'm a Catholic, but I like you a lot. And then,
oh boy, now she's in weird territory, isn't she? She likes Stephen Fry a lot, but she's Catholic. That's gotta be a little, what's the word I'm looking for here? That's gotta be a little conflicting, right?
but I don't know that the Catholic Church condemns homosexuality as such. Only recommend chastity for everybody. And then if I'm not married, I should be.
And it will not allow you to get married as a gay person. So she's trying to defend the Catholic Church's position on gay marriage or something right now, and it's a waste of time. Like, don't try to defend this. It's garbage.
Chase, either I am homosexual or heterosexual. And also, as I have read in your books, you should not, or you don't consider that to be celibate for a long period is something so awful or impossible.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I don't know what she's referring to here. I guess apparently in the books that he's written, he said being celibate isn't awful. It is. It's wrong. Don't do that. That is not healthy for a human being.
Now, okay, did I say that? Yeah. I missed that.
Hi, question for Anne Widdecombe, actually. You accused Christopher Hitchens of judging the Catholic Church by the standards of the time, but surely the truths in your doctrines are either eternal or they're not.
Exactly. Does the Pope get his information from God, and is God all-knowing and all-wise and never changing, or not? Ridiculous. Oops, sorry guys. Got this damn... Okay, got it.
Okay. I'll just take one more there and then we'll come. Yeah, go on.
Dude, she totally just has to use the bathroom. Just get up and go to the bathroom, will you, please, so that we can actually enjoy this debate and stop thinking about going to the bathroom ourselves?
Hello? My name is Jeremy Drax. I was baptized Church of England, and I'm now in the Church of Rome. Of all the speakers here tonight, I endorse 100% what Stephen Fry has said. In our church, we do not reject anyone. The life of Christ was a life of service.
Okay, so he's got, like, a written statement. All right.
A life of sacrifice, and a life of generosity. He did not spend it with the rich, the powerful, those with nice clothes and refinery. He spent it with the down and outs, the poor, the sick. Those.
Exactly, yes. You want to be like Jesus? Be like the poor. Love the poor. Give your money to the poor. That's what it's all about. That's what Jesus was all about, what he would have wanted. It's just ridiculous that, you know, the Catholic Church has all this wealth and golden thrones and artwork that's priceless and all this other garbage and claim to be Christ-like. No. No, you're not at all.
Those who were rejected by society. It is a tragic shame that a church that is founded on such fabulous principles has lost its way, in my professional view and personal view, in buildings that are arguably excessive to its requirements, with cardinals and bishops who, with Christ's guidance, should be on the shop floor serving the people.
Right.
Yeah, so he's giving a statement here. I guess they didn't really want to hear the statement.
Therefore, why is this church not leading by example and following the life of Christ?
All right, thanks. You're reading a statement there. Okay, fine. Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry, the question about the Catholic Church apparently doesn't condemn homosexuality, that question asked.
Well, I'm afraid it simply does.
Yes, it does. It's only in like a technicality that they can possibly claim that it doesn't. It's like, we don't condemn homosexuality, but you cannot, you know, be with anybody outside of marriage, and you can't get married to somebody of the same gender. So if you're gay, you just have to be celibate. It's like one of those love the sin or hate the sin type of deal. And it's just nonsense. They do condemn homosexuality, whether you like that fact or not. They do.
It does condemn it, yes. It calls it, the official word is disorder, but it was refined by the current pontiff, Ratzinger, who called it a moral evil. But on the other hand, we must remember, as the point that was made, is that the Church is very loose on moral evils, because although they try to accuse people like me who believe in the empiricism and the Enlightenment of somehow what they call moral relativism, as if it's some appalling sin, where what it actually means is thought.
No, that's funny. I like it.
They, for example, thought that slavery was perfectly fine.
They, in fact, did think slavery was perfectly fine and defended it by using the Bible for a long time. The Catholic Church did. They said the Bible defends slavery, talks about slavery as a good thing, and describes how we should maintain slaves and stuff, and indentured servants and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, absolutely, he's correct here.
Absolutely okay, and then they didn't. They thought until the year 2000 that a baby went to limbo, causing unbelievable distress to parents whose child died.
Okay.
Unbelievable distress. And then, with a wave of the hand and a stamp of a seal, it was no longer true. Something that had been eternally, or at least true for 2,000 years, suddenly wasn't. Because
Yeah, how weird is that, huh? I thought that the Pope had God's ear, or the other way around, whatever it is. What happened to all that? It was nonsense all along.
the truth is complicated. It's hard. And what is the point of the Catholic Church if it says, oh, well, we couldn't know better because nobody else did? Then what are you for?
Right, exactly. You're supposed to know better. That's what you said. You're supposed to be better informed than anybody else. What happened?
Okay. And the question about eternal truth as well, if you could, yeah.
I think it is high time. I didn't want to get into too much theology tonight, but I think it's high time that this interpretation of limbo by Stephen Fry was questioned. Now, I actually went...
No, limbo is not knowing if you're going to heaven or hell. That's what limbo is.
Went to a Catholic school, I absorbed Catholic doctrine, I was certainly taught about limbo, and I don't actually recognise Stephen's description of it. Because it wasn't for all eternity. What limbo was simply, and I do appreciate that to most people this won't matter, but it just needs answering. What limbo was straightforwardly a place where they waited for the second coming. That is all.
It's a long wait.
Long wait.
Long wait.
Yeah, long wait.
And Archbishop, can you just clarify for us on this thing about homosexuality? The Catholic Church condemns the act but not the individual. Did Jesus Christ himself actually say anything about homosexuality?
That's funny. The answer is no, he didn't. And she knows that, or she wouldn't have asked it. And believe me, there were most definitely gay people around at the time. They were absolutely there. There was all manner of stuff happening back then. If Jesus didn't mention it, then it wasn't important enough to mention. He didn't care, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think he did.
That is a wrong question in this regard.
Oh, how convenient. That's a wrong question. People are laughing because it's such a ridiculous thing to say.
No, because we are not aware about homosexuality, the morality of homosexuality being a matter that drew the attention of Jesus. But Jesus certainly spoke about the Ten Commandments and adultery. But to come to the position of the Church of homosexuality, it recognizes there are people who have homosexual tendencies, and they even consider themselves as such. But the Church also says that the homosexual acts are wrong, but that doesn't mean that those who are engaged in it are condemned outright, because each person has his own personal story. There is room for that.
Sure, every person has their own personal story. There's room for that, except you can't get married to a dude, and if you're not married, you have to be celibate. So, yeah. Only by technicality are they okay with gay people. In every real sense, in practice, they're not.
I do not think we should...
And again, this is a very, very recent thing. All the way up until very recently, they called it a moral evil and everything, just like Stephen Fry said.
Deny the Church the right to propound its own doctrines. You are not obliged to take it.
Let's hear some more from the...
Right, so the Church has the right to make choices for their own doctrines. Yeah, but they claim to be eternal and all-knowing and be God's mouthpiece on earth and all that, just like Jehovah's Witnesses. That makes no sense.
A little later. Okay, over there, up there.
It actually follows on from the point just raised. As a gay man, I find the history of sexual repression and oppression that's gone on in the church to be argued that that's just being... Is
there a buzzing? There is a buzzing coming from the speakers.
being obsessed by sex to be a bit offensive, and I wondered if Anne Widdecombe would defend her position a little bit more on sexuality.
We've had that point. We've dealt with that point. Can I go to number 2?
I just wanted to say on behalf of myself and my fellow degenerates that
fellow degenerates, love it.
I would just like to ask all the Catholics in the room, as well as the proposing team, if they'd like to just stay out of my sex life and my bedroom.
All right.
That'd be great.
We've had this, okay?
Yeah, a lot of gay people unhappy with the Catholic Church. Absolutely.
Can we have slightly different points, perhaps, that haven't been raised? Yeah. Let's see if I've got any luck with you.
Yes, hello. This is a point specifically to the Archbishop. He spoke about his father and how before becoming a Christian, his father had a basic grasp of the 10 Commandments from the society that he lived within. He seemed to use this as a point to prop up his own argument. I would argue the contrary. Surely, if people have a grasp of basic morality without the dogma, the doctrine of the Church, then everything good, all the humanitarian aid, all the great work that the Church has been doing that you've spoken about, surely that's not the Church. That's just people that happen to be under this umbrella of the Church. It's the people.
Yeah, exactly. It's, the Church is really unnecessary. We don't need the Church to tell us if, something's right or wrong or whatever other thing. Like, it's completely irrelevant.
That are doing it, not the dogma of the Church.
Here. I'm going to take that as a point rather than a question.
No, it was a question.
The young lady...
See, this is the problem. Like, she has to use the bathroom so badly that she just doesn't want to, give people an opportunity to answer any of them. Like, just let the woman use the bathroom so that we can actually enjoy this damn debate.
Lady with the spectacles, yeah.
Yeah, talking about sort of the humanitarian aspect of what's done, I was just wondering if Stephen Fry and Christopher Hitchens felt that perhaps there would still be the same amount of aid and the same amount of concern for sort of, people in Africa that do need our help without sort of this emotional, spiritual blackmail that perhaps the Catholic Church can be guilty of.
Okay, we'll come to that. Any supporters of the Catholic Church? Because so many of you, sorry, I'm not showing bias, but just to spice things up. Wait till the microphone.
Yeah, like literally everybody is opposed to the Catholic Church in this situation. It's kind of funny and sad at the same time.
Gets you. Yeah. At the front, she's not put her hand up.
Sit here, I'm looking at the word intelligence. And I think behind the word intelligence is reason.
Wait, behind the word intelligence is risen? Is that what he said? No.
I thought that this discourse was going to be about intelligence and reason, and not about emotion, whipping up emotions. I want to ask Hitchens and Fry. You try to put the blame of the Jewish Holocaust and the slave trade squarely on the shoulders of the church.
No.
Are you sure?
No. Nobody is trying to put the blame for the Holocaust squarely on the shoulders of the church. Nobody's doing that. But the church is not blameless. In fact, they're very much to blame for a great many things in the Holocaust. Absolutely. And they have sheltered Holocaust deniers and all of that stuff. So, yeah. No, they're not solely to blame. Hitler is to blame for a lot of that. But the Catholic Church not innocent.
Of that position.
Okay.
Wait, reason? Oh, reason. Oh, that's what he said. Okay, people were adding me with the word reason. I was like, what the hell is happening right now? Yeah. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Still kind of a weird thing to say, but okay. Reason.
Just pass the microphone to the sister next to you, please, because I think you had your hand raised, and then we'll come to the panel.
I am a reverend sister and a nun. I just want to say that our life is based on the life of Jesus Christ, not on emotion or based on the worldly.
No, your life is not based on Jesus Christ. You may think it is because you've been lied to, But in no way, shape, or form is your life based on Jesus, like, at all, like, even a little bit.
Way the world is going. So I thank all the people who are listening, and I think the message we are getting here will lead us to live a good life. That's why myself, sitting here listening to the talk, I think it is good that we focus our attention on the life lived by our Lord Jesus Christ.
Thanks very much.
Yes, 100%. Focus on the life lived by Jesus. Why aren't you doing that? Why are you zeroed in on accumulating as much wealth as humanly possible from the poorest countries on planet Earth? Not her personally, necessarily, but the Pope and the Catholic Church as an institution.
What our Archbishop trying to...
Thank you, sister. Thank you. Let me just take a couple more, actually, because so many hands in the air. Can we come... Yeah, just take
Dude,
your...
I'm telling you, she's got to use the bathroom or something. Something is going on with her where she just wants to rush through it and be done with the debate. I don't know.
Pick at the front there. Can you keep your points very brief? Because really, you're taking liberties too much, too long.
Anne Widdecombe said there was no sex in the Lord's Prayer. In the world I inhabit, you don't become a father without sex being involved.
All right, we'll take that as a point.
Okay, that's kind of funny. I guess I'll take it as a point.
Comment. If you've got brief comments, okay, there. And then I'm going to come to the panel, don't worry.
As is so often the case in these debates, the devil lies in the interpretation of single words in the motion. And the word is good. And it is, I think, one has to accept that if you have 1 billion followers, then it is an enormous force. But whether it's exercising its good now or it should change, Stephen Fry left the door open to us to see that if the Curia and the Pope...
Dude, let him ask the question for real. She's going, all right. Shut the fuck up. Let him say it. Jesus Christ. People just trying to ask a damn question.
Admit that there needs to be change, then think...
Okay, you hear her in the background? Shut the fuck up and let him ask. My God.
We would, I think, vote more favorably for the church.
Okay, thanks. Let's just get through some more comments. Okay, yeah, briefly, please, briefly.
This is just ridiculous, dude. Just get up and go to the bathroom. Tell him to put the debate on hold, take a 5-minute break or whatever, and come back.
Thank you. As somebody who spent 38 years of her life as a Catholic and then
Start
saw the
again,
light...
start again. Sorry, we didn't hear.
I spent 38 years of my life as a Catholic and then I saw the light. And my life now is going back and forth to Africa, and next month I go to Uganda, and I'm working on trying to stop mothers dying in pregnancy and childbirth. What I'm saying is, please, please, reverse the rule on condoms and family planning and contraception and save more lives. Save thousands and thousands.
Very good point. Absolutely. That, like, the Catholic Church knows exactly how many lives, you know, they're responsible for. I don't know how many. None of us probably ever will know exactly how many lives the Catholic Church is responsible for, but it's not zero because of their position on condoms, among other things.
We'll do one briefly. No, we will. All of you. Because they need... okay, where is the microphone? 3 minutes. Microphones. Yeah. Okay, just... Let's keep this moving. Briefly, please. Yes,
very briefly, as a Catholic, I'm actually very pleased to be here this evening to hear two sides of a very important argument. And the positive thing I take away is that the Catholic Church can take the opportunity to reflect upon these comments and that we look for the future.
But you think the Catholic Church is going to reflect on shit? No. No. They're going to take this as an attack from the devil and close their ears and their eyes and pretend they never heard it.
And it's by actually accepting these comments and by looking for a way forward that the church can actually grow and have a more important part of the world.
All right.
Dude, the guy's comment was so short. And she's already like, okay, all right, okay, all right. Like, damn, let him get the question out.
Thank you. Up there. You're going to have to address some of these points in your closing statement.
Like, do you not want to be a moderator? You didn't have to take this job. It could have been somebody else.
Hello, this is a question for Stephen and Christopher. I'm really happy that Stephen's mentioned the Enlightenment and empiricism, which is something that I think can add a lot to human existence. I'm just wondering what your thoughts on the monopoly of a certain type of sensation that religion seems to have on the existence of God is obviously put down to a particular sensory experience, and also the further impingement religion is having
Yeah, I don't understand what he's saying at all.
on empiricism, in particularly the United States, on things like intelligent design and these arguments. Thank you.
Yeah, briefly. Okay, very, very quickly, like 15 seconds, everybody. Yeah. Where is the microphone? Just take it there. You don't have to stand in the middle.
My God, dude, she is really trying to blow through this. I'm convinced she has to go to the bathroom so fucking bad, and she just feels like she can't because she's got to moderate this.
Just a question for the Archbishop. I'd like to know how you calculate the figure of how many Catholics there are in the world. I was baptised a Catholic. I'm now atheist. I presume it's done by baptism records, and I'm calculated as a Catholic.
Okay.
And why can I not now disassociate myself from the church?
Because they like having higher numbers so they can prove how important they are, of course.
All right. I'm sorry, everybody. Can't really take any more questions. Can't take any more questions from the floor, really. But panel, what I propose is this. You've heard the points that are raised. Some of them were comments, some of them were questions, like the one specifically to you, Christopher Hitchens, about the Holocaust. You're going to have a few minutes to make your closing statements. Please incorporate these questions that you heard in your closing statements, because...
Dude, what? Are you kidding? They don't even get an opportunity to, like, answer the questions? I'm telling you, man, this woman has to go to the bathroom so damn bad that she doesn't want to do the debate anymore. They should have picked somebody else. She sucked as a moderator.
Let me just remind you how you vote, okay? If you are for the motion that the Catholic Church is a force for good in the world, then just tear this off and put it in the box. If you're against the motion that the Catholic...
Watch how fidgety she is. I'm telling you, she's got to use the bathroom. People aren't that fidgety unless they're on meth or they have to use the bathroom.
Church is a force for good. Rip this up, take the bit that's against and put that's in the box. If you're still undecided, then just put the whole ticket into the box. That's how to vote. Now,
she's like wiping her nose, she's moving her hair, she's, you know, her arms are flailing around everywhere. Telling you guys.
For those of you who are watching at home, if you'd like a briefing booklet on some of those issues that you've heard raised today, then please go to www.intelligence.
She has to go so bad she can't even include the third W in the URL. That's how bad she has to use the bathroom.
Squared.com, and you can download that booklet. Anybody can do it, and it's absolutely free. Okay, so everybody is doing that. So while you're all doing that, it's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to hear the closing statements incorporating some of the points that you, the audience, raised, and we're going to do it in reverse order this time. And it's going to be Stephen Fry first. Let me just remind you about some of the points, or did you make notes about them?
I've made notes, yeah.
You've made notes. Excellent chap, Stephen.
You see how she's leaning forward and stuff, and she's moving around? Yeah, she's got to use the bathroom. I'm convinced.
You're doing the work. So, Stephen Fry, final statements, please. Oh, stay seated.
Sorry.
Stay seated.
Observant chap, aren't I? Yes.
Why stay seated? I'm not sure what the point was of that.
Well, it's been a really interesting debate, and I've loved some of the questions from the floor. I suppose I'm slightly disappointed that Anne Widdecombe in particular should say, oh, I knew they'd bring up condoms and...
This one right here, what he's about to say, I use this all the time in my own, like, when I'm talking and you know, doing my own stuff. I use what he says here. Listen to this.
Anne Widdecombe in particular should say, oh, I knew they'd bring up condoms and child rape and homosexuality. It's a bit like a burglar in court, so you would bring up that burglary and that manslaughter. You never mention the fact I give my father a birthday present. You know, it's, yes, are you getting the message?
Dude, I love it. I love it. That it's completely on point. Absolutely. Of course we're bringing that up. Like, why would we bring up the time you gave your father a birthday present? We don't give a shit about that. We give a shit about the fact that the things that you're doing are really, actually getting people killed right now. Measurably getting people killed.
There is a reason we hammer home these issues, because they matter. They matter to people's hearts and souls. I make no apology to the lady who said this is supposed to be intelligence squared. Why are you being so emotional? We're talking about religion and souls here. I make no apology for being emotional about that subject. I make no apology for apparently not understanding the theology of Thomas Aquinas and Augustine of Hippo, or the Council of Trent, or various other extraordinary conventions that ruled on limbo. Don't tell me there's some magisterial and mystical reason behind limbo that I'm too stupid to understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's the strategy. When it's convenient, these people on the other side... oh, wow, I didn't realize that came back after I had opened. These people on the other side, like Ann Widdecombe and the priest... Well, specifically Ann Widdecombe. This seems to be her strategy, and I've seen the strategy played out in other contexts by other people also. The strategy is, when it's convenient, pretend to be the dumbest motherfucker alive. Pretend to have no clue what people are talking about. I have no idea what you mean. You're making no sense, just like Ben Shapiro. This Barbie movie is just too complex for me to understand. This Harvard Law School graduate, Barbie movie is too complex for this Harvard Law School graduate to understand. When it's convenient. But when it's convenient, you're the idiot. You're the stupid one. You're the one that can't understand anything. See how that works?
That's not good enough. It really isn't. As a rather more contemporary theologian, Bultmann said, the problem with mysticism is it begins in mist and ends in schism. And
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but
it's terribly disappointing to hear that those who want to stand up for a church that is based on a founder who was put to death by capital punishment, who, for all we know from what he said, seemed to be very, very understanding, imaginative, pure, simple, remarkably intelligent in a...
Talking about Jesus, I think.
Socratic kind of way. And he is represented by, really, I'm afraid, pretty low-rent intelligences and pretty low-rent imaginations. They
Talking about the Catholic Church now, yeah.
are not connected at the moment, it seems to me, with the aspirations and desires of the human race. There's such an opportunity, owning 1 billion souls at baptism, that can never be unowned, to answer that lady's question, until she's excommunicated. So yes, you are counted. It's such an opportunity to do something remarkable to make this planet better. And it's an opportunity that is constantly and arrogantly being avoided. And I'm sorry for that.
Okay, thank you.
Well said, Stephen Fry. I love this dude.
Final statement from Conservative MP Ann Widdecombe for the motion that the Catholic Church is a force for good in the world.
Right, can I first answer the point raised by the lady over there about how she'd been helping women who were in danger of death even from pregnancy and childbirth, and answer the allegation behind it. Which
she's saying the word a lot. That tells me, I mean, she's a public speaker, so she knows that crutch words are not valuable. They're actually a detriment. So that tells me she's about to say something really f***ed up. Oh boy, is she about to say something messed up. Okay, let's hear it. Lay it on me, Anne.
Which is that somehow the reason why so many women in the third world...
There's another you catch that?
...behind it, which is that somehow the reason why so many women in the third world continue to go on...
It's literally like every other word right now.
...having children beyond a safe point is all because it's the wicked Catholic Church.
Well, yeah, the Catholic Church's policies prevented or discouraged people from using condoms. Yes, it is at least in part the Catholic Church's fault. At the very least, in part.
Let me point out the obvious. that if you're in a country where the mortality rate is extremely high, where you do not expect the majority of your children to survive into adulthood, and there is no convenient abbey field to nip to, the reason that you have children
I don't know what an abbey field is
for security in your old age.
That is partially true. What she's saying is for security in your old age. Well, partially. Like I said, it's not entirely true, but there is a very high mortality rate in Africa, in certain African countries. Not as high as it used to be. I think it's gone down dramatically. But people have a lot of children, like 12 children, because they expected only like 20% or 30% of their children to survive. So they'd have a lot, knowing that many of them would not make it, and they'd end up with like 3 or 4 kids at the end of it. That, you know, Ann Widdecombe, of course, is going to make it out like Africans are savages and they just don't know what they're doing, and they're doing it because they want to, whatever. Kind of a messed up thing to say or believe or think or whatever, but okay.
And in case anybody thinks I'm making that up, may I point out that I did actually go out with an aid project to Zambia, and I asked woman after woman.
Oh, we got anecdotal information here. Okay, lay the anecdotes on me then.
About why they had such large families when they couldn't feed them, and the answer was always the same. Somebody has got to look after me when I am old. Don't.
Just absurd. Again, she's just giving us anecdotes, worthless anecdotes. There's a very complex reason for the situation that Africa is in, and a lot of the reasons revolve around colonialism and stuff like that. But aside from all of that, the Catholic Church made Africa materially worse by discouraging the use of condoms, by evangelizing to the people on the continent, in the various different countries, and convincing them that condoms were evil. Just disgusting. And she's defending it.
Let's forget that. And then, of course, we have had all the usual stuff about how the Catholic Church, being against condoms, has apparently caused untold misery.
It has.
I'm not going to cite the Catholic Church now. I'm going to cite people who wouldn't want to be associated with the Catholic Church.
People that I have no clue who they are, I'm sure, right?
Dr. Edward Green, Liberal, agnostic.
I have no idea who that is or why I should care about who it is or any of that stuff. Once again, she's like trying to use this as like evidence that she was right all along or some other nonsense. It's just absurd, dude.
Harvard Center for Population and Development Studies writes, 20 years into the pandemic, there is no evidence that more condoms leads to less AIDS.
Okay, interesting. Again, I understand that, like, you're citing some guy that I've never heard of. There are qualified scientists today that claim that climate change is not happening, too. You can find a scientist to say anything. We work off of consensus when we're dealing with this stuff. Does he represent the consensus? Does the consensus of scientists say that condoms do not prevent the spread of illness? Of course not. That's an absurd position. The consensus correctly says condom use helps prevent the spread of disease. But she's going to find like 2 examples of people who contradict the consensus, even back then. And this isn't even that long ago. This is 2009, I think they said earlier. She's just an absurd human being.
We're simply not seeing what we expected. And he goes on to say that in Africa, where many have to go miles even to get an aspirin, a number of researchers are now questioning whether the universal ideal of perfect condom use, because that is what is required.
No, it's not what's required. You don't have to have perfect condom use to prevent the spread of illness. Even a little bit of condom use would prevent illness. First of all. And second, yeah, guess what? You do. You have to go miles for an aspirin sometimes, but the Catholic Church is in there, and somehow they get a Bible in every person's hand from Chad to Niger to, I don't know, South Africa. Just naming African countries at this point. Everywhere from Chad to Lake Victoria, they got a Bible in everybody's hand. But they can't get condoms in their hands, huh? Because condoms are evil. If they wanted to, they could very easily. The Catholic Church, they got the funds, the resources, they got the boots on the ground to do whatever they want. They could absolutely get condoms in people's hands to prevent the spread of illness. What do they do instead? Demonize condoms, claim they're evil, claim that if you use them, then you're not going with God's will or whatever other nonsense. Isn't it weird that you have to travel miles for an aspirin, but you don't have to travel miles for a Bible? Bibles are like super available to everybody? Just a joke, man. A complete joke. The things that she's saying right now and this person as a whole is just a joke.
With a regular supply is quite simply unattainable. John Hitchens of the Centre for Sexual Health and HIV Research says, we should ask why condom promotion is apparently not having much effect in most developing countries. And finally, Dr. Trevor Stammers, none of these people Catholics.
Yeah, again, I don't know any of these people. I don't know who they are. I don't know why I should care about them. I have no idea who she's talking about or what. The consensus of scientists is that condom use prevents the spread of illness. It's obvious. And if you disagree with that, then you're a joke. I'm sorry.
There are no examples to date from any country in the world that has reversed a generalized epidemic by means of condom promotion alone. Now, if we are true to wanting to help people, if we are really true to it, then we should face up to that perhaps rather inconvenient fact that what was expected hasn't actually happened.
You know, if they made condoms a little bit more available, the Catholic Church, who are evangelizing there, if they made them a little more available, maybe they would see for a fact that condom use does reduce the spread of illness. It's obvious. Does anybody really have to even say this? Give me a break.
I could go on, I could quote UNAIDS, I could quote the Wellcome Trust, research after research now, suggesting that condoms actually are not the answer that they were once thought to be.
No, they are the answer, actually. They do solve, or at least help, the spread of illness.
And when I said that our opponents are obsessed with sex, I meant it in this way. The only nastiness tonight, and there's been virtually none, the only nastiness tonight came when Stephen Fry accused the Archbishop of being sexually dysfunctional.
Okay, I don't remember that. What the hell is she talking about right now? I saw this whole debate, this entire thing. If anybody comes in here and just sees this part, I watched all of it. I do not remember that.
Because he said that celibate priests and monks had no right to tell him what to do because they were, and I quote his words, sexually dysfunctional.
Oh, I see. So in the broad sense, he claimed that he was sexually dysfunctional because he's celibate. Right, okay. So I guess in a technical sense, like by technicality, he said that. Okay. That's a little bit of a cheap shot by Anne, but all right.
As I've said, our opponents always try to home in on sex when the teachings of the Church, which are, after all, only about the stability of family, the maintenance of fidelity, the virtue of chastity, when the Church...
Okay, I don't believe that chastity is a virtue. I mean, that's really the issue. There's a lot of stuff here that she's saying that she assumes everybody agrees with, that there's simply no reason to agree with. Why is it bad to be with somebody that you like and you want to be with? Why is that a bad thing? I don't understand. Please, fill me in.
Teaches that as one part of all its teaching. I do sometimes despair at the way that these debates always come back to that. So I'm very pleased to have been here tonight, despite the fact that I think the incoming poll was slightly discouraging. I'm very pleased to have been here with the Archbishop and with the two gentlemen opposite, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, that was her closing statement. Now, the Archbishop, unfortunately, has a very thick accent, is very hard to understand, but I think we can muddle our way through.
Against the motion, Christopher Hitchens.
I thought it was the Archbishop next. Okay, we got Hitchens.
Those who ask confessions from other people should be willing to make oneself. I am obsessed with sex.
No, I love it. Hitchens is fantastic, man.
Ever since I discovered that my God-given male member was going to give me no peace, I decided to give it no rest in return.
He's awesome, right? Man, I miss Hitchens.
Seems fair to me. Now, two people asked me to be very quick and do world poverty and the Holocaust, and I'll do that. There is only one cure for world poverty that's ever been found or ever will be, and it's very simple. And it can be phrased very simply, too. It's called the empowerment of women. Go to Bangladesh or Bolivia.
That sounds like a platitude. That sounds like an empty thing that somebody would say. But no, really, that's how you do it. You want to raise a country out of poverty and improve its chances of success and make it a more developed country more quickly. It's called the empowerment of women. Seriously. Half of the country that we're talking about right now is not allowed to, like, work or function or do whatever in society? Really? Who the hell came up with that idea? That is one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard in my life.
I have to ask you to hold your applause, though I love you. Go to Bangladesh or Bolivia, give women control over their reproductive cycle, throw in a handful of corn if you can, make them not just the beasts of burden and the beasts of childbearing that they become, and the floor will rise, it just will.
He's correct here, absolutely. Equality is really the answer here. Equality is how you bring a nation along and make it a more developed country more quickly.
It never fails anywhere. Against this one solution, the Catholic Church has set its face. The efforts of the missionary church in the Third World mean more people die, not less. It's as simple as that. More famine, more disease, more ignorance, more random and avoidable death.
Absolutely. And the Catholic Church's goal in being in these African countries is not to help them, it's to evangelize. Helping these people is secondary to that goal. That's why they have a Bible in every person's hand, but not a condom in every person's hand.
To the Holocaust, sir, that the Church preached that the Jewish people were collectively responsible for the death of Christ until 1964, till nearly 20 years after the Nuremberg trials, may or may not have something to do with the availability of a reservoir of anti-Jewish hatred in countries like Poland, Spain, Italy, Germany, Austria, and elsewhere. I think it does have something to do with it, okay? The Ten Commandments, 3 of them are awe-inspiring. They're about being afraid of a totalitarian figure. 3 of them are ordinary morality. We know of no code of ethics ever found, and the Archbishop bears me out on this, that recommends murder, theft, or perjury. Putting adultery on the same level as that may not be morally advisable. Saying that covetousness should be considered in the same light as a crime, in other words, a thought crime. You're condemned now for something you're thinking, and it may be something that leads you to enterprise and emulation. That's forbidden too.
That's not how you create a successful society. It's how you destroy a society, as we have seen time and time again. The Catholic Church, again, used to run towns back in the day. They used to run entire cities long and long ago, and we can see exactly how they did. They did a piss-poor job of it. It was a mess. There were people dying left and right. There were witch hunts and all kinds of other things like that. It's insane. Catholic Church is terrible at running towns, at governing. The ideas the Catholic Church has are a joke.
Very, very iffy, it seems to me, and there's a very iffy part of it which lumps those you mustn't covet in with the animals and the chattels and your property, and those who it lumps in are your women folk.
Yep, absolutely. Women are effectively no different than animals in as far as like the Catholic Church and the Bible goes.
And do you seriously expect to be taken seriously if you say that that commandment that does reduce women to beasts of burden and childbearers and chattel has nothing to do with the appalling position of women, not just in poorer societies, but in ours as well? Again, for shame if you can feel it. Now, unanswered questions. Amazing. I asked, where is Cardinal Law, Bernard Law, and why? I have an authority here. He ducks the question. And Widdecombe, sorry, I've got one more thing to say about that. He also says that the Church advises against homosexuality. It teaches against it. No, it doesn't, any more than it teaches against divorce or contraception. Where it can, it bans these things and punishes them and writes them into the criminal code. If all you were doing, sir, ma'am, were offering advice, we could probably be fine with it.
Yes, absolutely. And no, if you were offering if you were offering advice, I'd still have a problem with it. I just have a little bit less of a problem. He's absolutely correct here. It's not right to give them a pass on this.
No one, though they were asked repeatedly, would say whether they thought Stephen Fry, my friend, was in a state of mortal sin or not. They wouldn't tell you. Something about the question brought out their inner coward. Well, I say that homosexuality is not just a form of sex, it's a form of love, and it deserves...
This is an important point that Christopher Hitchens is laying down right now. This is an important thing to understand right here. Listen again.
Something about the question brought out their inner coward. Well, I say that homosexuality is not just a form of sex, it's a form of love, and it deserves our respect for that reason.
It's not a form of sex, it's a form of love. That is something that a lot of people don't get. It's something that people don't seem to fully understand a lot of the time. Being gay is not a form of sex. It's a form of love. This is why I believe that pride events and pride parades and stuff should be child-friendly. And this stuff should be available to children. You know, the books about people being gay or whatever should all be available to children. 8, 10, 12, 14-year-olds. Because it has nothing to do with sex, really. Being gay is who you are romantically interested in. That's what it's really about.
Reason that when my children were young, I'd have been proud to have Stephen as their babysitter, and I'd told them they were lucky. And if anyone came to my door as a babysitter wearing holy orders, I'd call first a cab and then the police.
Absolutely, dude. I love Christopher Hitchens sometimes. He's the best, for real.
And it's your fault, sir and ma'am, it's your fault that that's true and that everybody knows it's true. How you can live with it, I don't know. Now,
absolutely. Now, they can try to obfuscate and pretend that they are the good guys and they have been helpful in society. They've improved the material conditions of blah, blah, blah. They can claim all that all they want, but everybody knows it's true, that they have been nothing but harmful in society.
Relativism, I thought we were agreed. But Anne Widdecombe says slavery has to be considered in context. What's more relative than that? There were people at the time, Thomas Paine, Benjamin Franklin, there were innumerable humanists and secularists who said slavery is evil. The church wouldn't agree. Now, which is it then? Is it that the church is wrong, or, even more suggestive, that God has not yet revealed that it's wrong to them? Or did God support it all those years and then change his mind? From a beginning point of absurdity, you arrive at a terminal point of absolute moral chaos.
Yep, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None of it does. The Catholic Church cannot possibly claim that they are, or that they have a line to God, that they are connected in some way, and that they are speaking for God. They can't claim that. It's absurd to claim such a thing and watch all of this stuff happen the way that it has.
And I think you've at least done us the favor of making that plain this evening. God...
That's funny. Christopher Hitchens is great.
In short, God did not make man in his own image. It is precisely to the contrary. Mammals and primates made many gods and many churches in their own rival images.
Absolutely.
And that would explain, if these churches and faiths were invented by primates who are only half a chromosome away from a chimpanzee, which happens to be the case, it would explain a lot, would it not? I can't offer you absolution. Not in my power to do it. Stephen can't offer you absolution. First of all, we believe, we more or less know, there's no such thing. But if you confess your sins specifically, if you name them and don't just make them general, if you do so truly repenting of them, without any purpose of evasion, and if you make a firm purpose of amendment, you might be able still, while there's time, to live with your consciences. I wish you all the luck in the world in pursuing that course of action.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fascinating. Yeah, I absolutely love Christopher Hitchens' breakdown. Now, that was the last closing statement before we hit the cardinal. What's his name? Or the Archbishop, I think. Nigerian guy, I believe. I was debating whether or not to hit him. He's only got like 5 minutes, but okay. Let's listen to the final closing statement. See what the Archbishop had to say then, right?
Final statement from our final speaker, Archbishop of Abuja, John Onayaken. You've got to make your final pitch now to the audience.
Thank you very much. I just want to draw the attention of the audience back to the topic. Yeah. And the topic is quite clear. The Catholic Church is a force for good in the world.
Yep, that's the topic. Correct. Go on.
He did not say it is the only source for good.
Nope.
He did not say it has always been a source for good. It's not in the past tense, it's in the present tense.
Okay, fair enough. Sure, you're right. That was not the, what do you call it? It was not the proposition. That's right. It had no bearing on whether or not, the Crusades happened or whatever. We're talking about now. There are plenty of things that I can complain about now. There are plenty of things Christopher Hitchens complained about now. We don't need to go back to the Crusades to complain about something the Catholic Church does currently.
Is a source for good. The way I learned logic, this is the way I would proceed. Which is why when we are being brought back to all the evils in the past, I kept asking myself, are my friends digging into all those because they really have no proper argument?
No, we weren't digging into those. And Widdecombe kept, using those in her arguments because she knew that those were easily knocked down. I don't care about, I care about the Crusades. I don't care about any of that stuff right now. The people who need to be held responsible for the Crusades are now dead and will never be held responsible. You know what I care about now? The fact that the Catholic Church moved pastors and priests around that they knew were abusing children. They were aware this was happening. They moved them around to help them avoid prosecution. That's just one example that they gave. Their hatred of anybody in the LGBT community is another one. It's another thing that I have an issue with. Plenty of things that I take issue with now, that they're doing now. We're not talking about back then. We're not talking about 1,000 years ago. We're talking about today. But, we might as well bring up things that happened in the past 50 years. Why not, right? The Catholic Church denied the Holocaust for who knows how long. 20 years after the Holocaust ended, they denied it. They didn't deny it. They never apologized for their support of Hitler or whatever it was. I don't even remember now. The Catholic Church has a lot to apologize for, even in recent years. And here we have a representative of the Catholic Church here to apologize. Is that what he's doing? Of course not. He's saying we have nothing to apologize for.
to say against the motion. Because from all they have said, I still have not seen how they have in any way shown that the Catholic Church is not a force for good.
Really? What about moving child abusers around to different countries to protect them from prosecution? What about putting Bibles in people's hands in Africa instead of putting condoms in their hands to prevent a pandemic? Just two examples, two straightforward, blatant, obvious examples. Is he just going to ignore those? I guess so.
The world. There are other people, of course, who are forces for good in the world. We are just one of them, and I still believe that so we are. And I just want to bring that to the attention of this body, if at all it is possible, because from what I'm saying, probably many are not really listening in that direction. But also what worries me a bit is the way the Catholic Church has been described from across this table. Mrs. Widdecombe already mentioned a few cases where there have been a clear caricature of both the Catholic Church and...
Okay, there's been a clear caricature, a few cases where there's been a clear caricature of the church. Sure. Are you ignoring all of the non-caricatures, all the things that the church really did do and is still doing wrong? Are you going to ignore those? I guess so.
And its position. Sometimes caricatures are very funny and they are quite entertaining, but I do not think we are here about entertainment.
Yeah, we're not talking about caricatures. We're talking about real things that the Catholic Church really did and does currently right now.
I think it is important, if this is a serious discussion, that one makes a little effort to actually get to understand exactly the truth about the matter. I can say all kinds of things about other people, but I think it is fair enough that when it comes to what does the church say about condoms, what does it say about homosexuality, what does we say about women priests, we need to take the trouble to find out exactly what it is saying, not what the newspapers are saying that we are saying.
We already know what you say. We have quoted, Stephen Fry quoted popes and stuff, recent popes. And we also see exactly what, he's pulling the Andrew Tate defense right now. Oh, you took me out of context. Took me out of context. It's out of context. You know, you can't clip chimp something. Just grab like a 30-second clip out of a 3-hour conversation that I had and then claim that's my whole belief. I am now officially calling that the Andrew Tate defense. It's just absurd, dude. Come on. We know what you said. We know what you believe. Give me a fucking break.
Unfortunately, this is not a forum to give you a proper exposition of the Catholic faith. And in fact,
No, it is that forum. It's exactly that forum. People are accusing you of doing heinous things. Correct us. This is your opportunity. Is that what he's doing? Of course not. He's pretending that it's all made up and he was clip-chimped and taken out of context and all that other stuff, just like Andrew Tate.
Seriously resisted the temptation to preach to you. It seems that all the preaching today came from the other side. And
yeah, maybe so. Why didn't you give us some of yours? Why don't you tell us? Lay it down. Tell us exactly how you feel and why you feel that way. Instead, you just pretended to be innocent and pretended that everybody was taking you out of context the whole time.
But anyway, be that as it may, I must mention two issues that was raised. We have been told that the whole genocide in Rwanda is a fault of the Catholic Church.
Nobody said that. Again, I think, didn't Ann Widdecombe use this? No one said the Rwandan genocide was the Catholic Church's fault. They said the Catholic Church contributed to it, made it worse. See how that works? See how they twist it around so that they're not... It's kind of creating a straw man that they can easily knock down. There's a specific propaganda technique that he's using right now. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway.
Because the Rwandans are practically all Muslims. If there's going to be a genocide, it has to be done by somebody. They happen to be Muslims. In any case, that a bishop was accused. Yes, a bishop was accused. But the bishop was discharged and acquitted because he was falsely accused. When he was accused, all the world media were there because this was great news. A bishop accused of genocide. The day he was discharged and acquitted, they were not interested. Nobody was interested to hear that Bishop Augustine Misago has been discharged and acquitted because...
Yeah, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The Catholic Church gave the people who were committing the genocide the platforms that they used. They were heavily involved in the Rwandan genocide, whether they wanted to be or not. And then when the genocide actually started happening, the Catholic Church backed away slowly. They saw it taking place and they walked away. They turned around and went the other direction because they knew that what was happening right now was deeply disgusting and evil and wrong. And they might maybe be just a little bit responsible for it. How convenient, huh? 100 days the world watched on as people died. And Rwanda the people being genocided had to resolve the problem themselves, rather than somebody else putting a stop to it. Disgusting.
He was accused on false, trumped-up charges.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about this one guy or who the fuck... I don't know who you're talking about right now. The Catholic Church gave the platforms to the people that committed atrocities. Unacceptable.
As for condoms, Mrs. Widdecombe already has shown that there are scientific positions that support the position of the church. All I want to add here is this. If indeed the burden of HIV and AIDS is in Africa, know that it is my nephews, my nieces, who are most affected.
Yeah, and your ass is getting them killed by holding the Catholic Church's position on these issues.
And let nobody out there think that they care more about the life of my own nieces and nephews than I care. So
no, you may care about them plenty, but you care about the Catholic Church more. That's the issue here.
If we take a position, it is because we seriously believe that this is the right position.
Okay, I don't give a shit what you believe. You know what I care about? The scientific information. When something is scientific, you don't believe it, you accept it. I don't believe in evolution, I accept evolution. I don't believe that condoms work, I accept that condoms work. This guy is using the word believe here. Like in religious terms, I believe that condom use does not help. Well, I don't give a shit what you believe.
We are not talking of the validity or the value of one sexual act with a good condom done properly. We are talking of condoms being distributed indiscriminately to young people and being told that once you wear this, you are safe.
Indiscriminately. Well, it would, if you did that, if you distributed the condoms like that, it would absolutely decrease the spread of, or the transmission of HIV in Africa. Absolutely, no question. And this dude is pretending that this is a bad thing. It's just disgusting, man.
The fact is that when that is done, AIDS is increased, not decreased.
That is completely false. I have no idea where he's getting that from. He's just pulling it out of his ass, presumably.
I think this is been proved from epidemiological research. It's not talking about whether condom protects from one act, but when it comes to a whole lot of people, like the situation in most countries of Africa, and the situation of health services, right down to simple aspirin, then we know what we are talking about.
Yeah, I didn't understand what he was saying there.
Finally, we have this event has been very useful. I'm very happy to have been here. We never said that the Catholic Church is perfect. Some questions were proposed to the Archbishop.
Well, what's fascinating is he did actually kind of say the Catholic Church is perfect. Do you remember somebody asked him, what is one of the policies the Catholic Church holds that you are ashamed of? Do you remember? And he said none. He did claim it was perfect. Remember that?
Think about it. We continue to do our best to be as close as we can to Jesus Christ and what he wants us to be.
Oh boy, you are failing miserably. Really? You're trying to be like Jesus right now? How much gold is this guy wearing right now, I wonder? How much gold do you think that this guy has on? Or Ann Widdecombe? Do you think Jesus wore anything gold?
And to constantly be a force for good in the world. And I thank you.
Archbishop, thank you.
Anyway, yeah, that's the end of the debate. Now this woman in purple can go use the bathroom like she's been thinking about for the past hour and a half, presumably. I don't know. It's just absurd, dude, honestly. It's absolutely absurd from beginning to end, all of it. I can't even believe that, like, this is the subject of a debate. Really? People don't know that the Catholic Church is a force for evil? That it's been destructive to society? Are you really just learning this? Is this being debated right now? Absolutely insane, man. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. It was fascinating to listen to, in my opinion. And rest in peace, Christopher Hitchens. I'm glad that Stephen Fry's still around. He's pretty awesome. But rest in peace, Christopher Hitchens, for sure. All right, let me know what you think.